What is the correct way to fix the multipath problem? Here is my idea. Hello guys, once again it's Matt. Thank you all the members and patrons. Make sure to subscribe, and while we wait for the patch release, we have to talk about multipath again, because it's a big deal, I think, and I'm gonna argument about that, okay? So what is multipath? Just a quick reminder to you that don't know what it is. It's basically the effect that makes radar think a target is flying lower than it actually is because of the reflections of the radiation or the radio waves that is coming back from the ground. So this happens in the game right now from like below 100 meters, right? So if a target is flying below 100 meters, which is a very large gap, it will make the radar think the actual target is flying below than the reality, and it will actually make the missile go to the ground instead of the target because of the amount of bouncing back radio waves coming from the ground instead of the aircraft itself. Remember, radars, missiles, everything like that work by basically going to the biggest reflection in radio waves that there is out there. This could be chaff, this could be a larger aircraft, this could be the ground. So yeah, or a closer aircraft that will be larger because it's closer, right? But anyway, so this is a problem that affects basically all missiles right now, and again, they're all basically set to the 100 meter mark. So if a missile or a target actually is flying lower than 100 meters, it makes them 100% invulnerable, unless the missile is like a phoenix that has a lot of explosives on it and the target is flying really low to the ground. The missile might just with the blast damage the aircraft, but it's more unlikely than realistic to that happen, right? So how to fix that? Because this is a problem, okay? Why is this a problem? Well, that's the thing. It doesn't involve a lot of skill, okay? You can fly just low and you're invulnerable. At the same time, of course, I don't want that the game becomes just firing a missile and getting a kill, because that would be unfair as well. So it needs to be a balance over here, and right now I don't think there is one. So we have multiple types of missiles in the game, right? Using multiple types of guidance systems and technologies from different eras as well. Use that to balance it out. That's my idea. In real life, the earlier missiles, they basically used, technology that basically were older, right? And made normally the missiles perform worse in low altitude. So for example, the older the missile, the worse the multipath could actually be in theory. Of course, this would be used as a balancing factor, not a realistic 100% factor, but at the same time it would make sense for the game. For example, the AIM-7E, maybe it should be 100 meters of multipath. Below 100 meters, the AIM-7E will go to the ground, or even in a higher altitude because these missiles are very old. But then maybe an AIM-7F, which is late 70s missiles, mid to late 70s missiles, would be slightly less, like, I don't know, 80 meters, sorry. So if the target is flying lower than 80 meters, then the AIM-7F would go to the ground. Then maybe the AIM-7M would be 50 meters because it used an inverted monopole seeker, right? So it's better technology. So 50 meters, 40 meters, depends, right? Then the AIM-120 would be like 25 meters or something like that. So, and so on, right? The more modern the missile is, the less meters on the multipath it will actually affect. So the more modern the missile is, the less meters, the lower the aircraft needs to fly to make multipath work in a defensive manner. This would create two benefits. The first one would be that it would create a balance in the multipath, right? It is kind of semi-realistic, right? So in a way, because of course you would have older missiles being more problematic on that, and newer missiles being more effective on flying low, like attacking low flying targets. And second, this would create a learning curve for the player. So making sure that he's ready to actually fight in the top ranks where BVR is usable and way better than what he's accustomed to. So he's more and more going to have to learn that flying low as just the plain old tactic is not gonna work anymore, and he needs to actually learn other things. Flying low should actually, yes, be used as a tactic, but it shouldn't be as easy as just flying generally low, not even that low. I mean, 100 meters is not that low, and literally being 100% invulnerable, especially against very modern missiles. This would make sure that you have to learn how to avoid radar missiles. Everybody had to learn how to avoid IR guided missiles, and the learning curve is still there. If you start grinding right now and get an AIM-9B era, fighting BR, and then you jump to the R60, and then the R60M, and then the R73, the more you go from aircraft to aircraft and you have to learn to deal with these different missiles, the more you learn, the better the skill of the player becomes, because he needs to learn how to avoid better missiles. Yes, there are some unfairness. I'm not saying that it's 100% balanced right now with IR missiles, but at the same time, it has a learning curve, which is good, because players need to have some sort of skill to actually learn how to use this, because if the game is too easy, it doesn't have a reward on when you get kills, That's kind of what this kind of becomes. So it needs to be a balance. Again, it needs to be a balance. It's not as easy as just firing a missile and killing everybody, and not as easy as just flying low and being invisible to missiles, basically, right? So learning how to avoid these progressing better missiles, not only in maneuverability and range, but also in the flying low category, would make people be more successful in the future. I mean, on the very least, people would learn how to use the terrain, Terrain, as I said, it needs to be a valid tactic. But the thing is, you need to learn how to use the terrain. You need to fly in hills. You need to fly between houses, or I don't know. I mean, houses, it's kind of weird, but bridges and like little rivers and stuff. Make sure that it's a skill that you have to learn. Okay, you want to fly low and not learn other ways to avoid a missile? Well, okay, but you need to really learn how to fly low, right? I mean, this doesn't mean that you won't be able to use, again, ground flying as a tactic. It just means that you will need to fly smartly and use the terrain to your advantage. Again, creating a learning curve and a balance where top tier is indeed the most difficult, but the most rewarding as well. This would make, of course, top tier a little bit more difficult, but it would make more rewarding and more realistic when getting kills. Because, I mean, it needs to be some type of skill, as I said. I mean, like, just shooting missiles and killing everybody, or just flying low, is it fun? I don't think it is. I gotta be honest. So, remember, a lot of people complain about how top tier is just a missile fest, that there's no skill involved, right? That you just point to a target. I mean, I'm not saying most people, but there is a lot of people that complain about these, right? It's just easy kills because you just get there and you fire a missile and it's done. You don't have any skill after you fire the missile, right? Well, that's the thing. We need more little things like this that would actually bring back skill a little more to the game in top tier, making the player know how to avoid missiles, how to be effective, how to be offensive, everything like that, making sure that you are actually using your skill set and having fun while doing so. So yeah, multipath is a big problem. I think it's one of the things that is 100% killing ARB for most players in top tier and stuff. People might not understand, they might think, oh, but please don't remove it because I need to, like, it's going to be too difficult and stuff. Yes, it's going to be harder, but again, there need to be a balance there. It doesn't need to be completely off multipath, because I don't think it's something that it's completely not existent in modern missiles. but it needs to be balanced out in the sensitivity, making sure that you need to use your skills that you learned from grinding and playing all this time to actually have a chance of avoiding a missile and killing a target if you know what you're doing. I mean, if a target is just flying straight to you at 200 meters, 100 meters of altitude, just not doing anything, I'm sorry, but it needs to get destroyed. You know, it's not how combat works. This is something for World War II combat, for World War I combat, for BVR, for Cold War era, early Cold War era, it doesn't matter. If you're just flying low to the ground without moving your aircraft, you're gonna get killed. And this is realistic, actually, in my opinion. So this is how I would fix the multipath problem, with steps and steps of sensitivity on the multipath, and not just playing, oh, it's just 50 meters, or it's off, or it's on at 200 meters, I don't know. It needs to be, each missile needs to have a multipath kind of code onto it, depending on the technology of it. For example, R-23s already had a multipulse inverted seeker, if I'm not mistaken, so it should be a little bit better, but worse in early turns for dogfights, comparing to the AIM-7E2, for example. So it can be a balance kind of thing, be like used in this scenario, right? So guiding police, this would be perfect. This would be perfect, in my opinion, at least. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about multipath. Do you think it should be removed? It should be like the way that it is right now? It should be a middle ground, like 50 meters that they added in the dev server, or it should be my idea or any other idea? Let me know in the comments, and I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe.